Hi, welcome back. Laurie Lineberry here from Willowbrook United Methodist Church. Today we're going to have a conversation about finding some perspective. Our realities create perspective for us, shaping how we see, value, and perceive things. How we live, where we live, what is normal for that place in time and space helps us understand relativity. I was born and raised in Alaska. When I lived there, it was considered cold when the temperature was colder than 20 degrees below zero. You see, it had to be colder than 20 degrees below zero before our mom would drive us to school. Otherwise, we walked the 2.5 miles to elementary school. I'm embarrassed to admit now, after more than 20 years living in the Arizona desert, that 60 degrees is just a darn bit chilly. See, perspective matters. In the springtime in Alaska during breakup, 40 degrees was toasty. I remember being an early elementary age child going outside in shorts and mud boots with my brother to shovel snow piles onto the bare earth to help the snow melt faster. In my childlike mind, if the snow is gone, then spring has arrived, right? Now, after time in Arizona, 105 degrees is tolerable, where 108 degrees is hot. Perspective matters. In Alaska, on a clear day, we could see then named Mount McKinley, now back to its original Eskimo name Denali, from Anchorage. We didn't think anything of seeing the mountain from that distance, 180 miles as the crow flies. In Arizona, that distance would be like being able to see Yuma or Nogales from Phoenix. That is hard for most of us to fathom. Perspective matters. My dad was a bush pilot. He owned a small plane that he designed and built. And we thought nothing of piling into his float plane and taking a day trip to a cabin he shared with a hunting buddy on one of Alaska's many lakes. I continue to meet people that have never even ridden in an airplane before. Perspective matters. I am sure that you can make similar comparisons from places you have lived and different times you've lived through or other countries you've visited. So here we are in November 2020. We are enduring a pandemic unlike any of us have ever experienced or can remember. The pandemic lockdown started March 30th for Arizona. For 29 weeks, we have lived restricted lives. No live in-person church, no gathering of friends and relatives, no dining out, no movies, no sporting events, no Disneyland, no beach trips, no street fairs or art shows, no county fair, no concerts, no plays, no orchestra, choir, or musical events, and limited, if any, travel. We are facing the unknown. How long will this pandemic last? When will reliable vaccinations be available? And when can we gather in groups like we did pre-pandemic? When will we be able to meet again together in church and sing? We moan and say, "How long, Lord? How long must we endure this?" Well, in order to gain some perspective, let's take a quick look back at the Israelites that followed Moses out of Egypt. The book of Exodus outlines the freeing of the Israelite people from captivity of the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, and their subsequent journey into the Sinai desert. We have read this story many, many times, and if you are like me, I have not thought well of the complaining of the Israelites, even though they were uprooted from their homes and from all that they had known, in order to follow Moses out into the wilderness to the promised land. You see, it's easy for us to discount the complaining of the Israelites because we know the ending of their story. We know that they just need to keep the faith and trust in God. They will be delivered eventually to the promised land, even if it is their next generation and not those that originally left Egypt. The Israelites spent 40 years in the unknown, the wilderness, waiting for their answer. We, folks, have been waiting 29 weeks for the end of this pandemic. Now I have so much more compassion for those complaining Israelites. I get their impatience, their frustration, their unrest. Perspective matters. Through the perspective of the pandemic we are living in, I have gained insight and understanding for just a fraction of what the Israelites must have endured. And like the Israelites, we are required to just keep our faith and trust in God. It is time for some perspective.